Friday evening. The conference room was decorated with "Congratulations" banners and balloons, decorations I had helped put up, thinking they were for me. After 5 years at Davidson Partners, after countless late nights and sacrificed weekends, after single-handedly bringing in our biggest client, this was supposed to be my moment. Instead, I stood there holding a plastic champagne glass, watching as my boss, Richard, beamed at Sarah Miller, the woman who joined the company just 3 months ago. "Everyone, please raise your glasses," Richard announced, his arm around Sarah's shoulders. "To our newest senior account manager. The position I had been promised. The promotion I had earned. The title that should have been mine. Sarah has shown exceptional initiative," Richard continued, either oblivious to or ignoring my frozen smile. "In just 3 months she's already doing a lot more than some people who've been here much longer." His eyes flickered to me meaningfully. I maintained my pleasant expression, even as my hand tightened around the champagne glass. What Richard didn't know, what none of them knew, was exactly how Sarah had managed to do so much more in 3 months. "You see, I'm not just Jennifer Taylor, account manager. I'm also JT_Codemaster, the anonymous developer who created the automation software that half the tech industry uses. The same software that Sarah had been secretly using to speed up her work, passing it off as her own exceptional efficiency. How did I know? Because I had designed the software. I could see every instance where it was being used, every shortcut taken, every miracle of productivity that had so impressed Richard." Speech, my coworkers called out, and Sarah stepped forward, glowing with false modesty. "I'm just so grateful for this opportunity," she gushed. "I promise to keep delivering the same level of performance that earned me this position." I smiled wider, thinking about Monday morning, about the software update I had already scheduled, about how Sarah's exceptional performance would suddenly and inexplicably vanish. "Jennifer," Richard called out, "would you mind getting more champagne from the break room?" Of course. 5 years of dedication and I was still the glorified assistant. "Happy to help," I replied cheerfully, heading to the break room. As I walked, I pulled out my phone and checked my other email, the one from Silicon Valley's biggest tech firm, offering me a consulting contract worth 7 figures to identify companies using stolen or unlicensed software. Companies exactly like Davidson Partners. I grabbed the champagne and returned to the conference room, where Sarah was now showing Richard her innovative workflow system, my software rebranded with her name. "Monday is going to be interesting," I murmured to myself, pouring champagne for the woman who'd stolen my promotion. "Very interesting indeed." The weekend passed slowly as I prepared everything. From my home office, I watched Sarah logging into my software, frantically trying to complete Monday's presentations in advance. She had no idea each login was being recorded, each stolen shortcut documented. Sunday night, I received another email from Silicon Valley. "Ms. Taylor, looking forward to your report on unauthorized software usage. Initial compensation of $1.2 million has been wired to your account. Additional bounties for each instance of theft identified." I smiled, thinking of the dozens of screenshots I had of Sarah using my software under her own name, of Richard's glowing praise for her innovative systems. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I walked into the office early, dressed in my best suit, not that anyone would notice. Sarah was already there, smugly arranging papers on her new senior account manager desk. "Jennifer," Richard called out. "Sarah needs the Johnson account files." "Of course," I replied pleasantly. "Just let me log in." 9 a.m. The software update went live. Across the office, dozens of automated processes quietly stopped working. 9:15 a.m. Sarah's first client call. I watched as she frantically clicked through her computer, trying to access the shortcuts that had made her look so efficient. Nothing worked. I just had it," she stammered into the phone. "Could we reschedule for this afternoon?" 9:30 a.m. Richard stopped by her desk. "Sarah? The Wilson presentation was supposed to be ready. It will be. I just need to." She was clicking desperately now, her face growing pale. "The system seems to be having issues." "What system?" Richard frowned. "I thought you developed your own workflow process?" I hid my smile behind my coffee cup. In the corner of my screen, a notification flashed. The Silicon Valley firm's software detection program was now running through Davidson and Partners network. 10 a.m. Sarah's second client call went even worse than the first. Without my software handling the data processing, she was lost. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently as she rushed past my desk, her perfect hair now slightly disheveled. "Fine," she snapped. "Just some technical difficulties." 10:30 a.m. Richard was back at her desk, his face thunderous. "3 clients have called complaining about delayed reports. What's going on?" "I don't understand." Sarah was nearly in tears. "My system was working perfectly last week." "Your system?" I murmured to myself, watching the software detection program complete its scan. "Let's talk about whose system it really is." My phone buzzed, an email from Silicon Valley. "Unauthorized software detected. Multiple instances. Legal team standing by." It was time for phase 2. 11 a.m. Richard called an emergency team meeting. Sarah sat at the conference table, her new senior account manager nameplate mocking me from her folder. "Would someone please explain why we've had 6 client complaints this morning?" Richard demanded. "Sarah, you assured me everything was under control." "It was my workflow system." She started. "About that system," I interrupted smoothly, opening my laptop. "I have something interesting to share." All eyes turned to me. Probably the first time in 5 years I'd spoken up in a meeting without being directly asked. "Jennifer, we don't have time for dash," Richard began. "Oh, I think you'll want to make time for this." I connected my laptop to the projector. "Let's talk about Sarah's innovative workflow system that earned her that promotion." Sarah's face went white as I pulled up the software's backend interface, complete with my developer signature and copyright information. "This is JT_Masters automation software," I explained calmly. "Currently used by major tech companies worldwide. When properly licensed, of course." Richard frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Sarah developed." "No, Richard. I developed it." I logged into my developer account, showing my profile as the software's creator. "Sarah just stole it, removed my credentials, and passed it off as her own work." The room went silent. Sarah's hands began to shake. That's not true," she stammered. "I created." "Really?" I pulled up the logs. "Here's every instance you accessed my software in the past 3 months. Here's where you removed my watermarks. Here's where you renamed features I spent years developing." Richard's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "Is this true, Sarah?" I just made some modifications." She tried. "And here's something else interesting," I continued, pulling up another email. "Silicon Valley's biggest tech firm hired me to track down companies using stolen software. They're offering quite a bounty, $1.2 million just to start." "Million?" Richard choked. "Plus bonuses for each identified instance of theft." I smiled. "They're very interested in companies that allow employees to steal and rebrand licensed software." "Now wait just a minute." Richard held up his hands. "I'm sure we can discuss this." "Like we discussed my promotion?" I asked quietly. "The one you gave to Sarah because she was doing so much more than me?" Sarah burst into tears. "I needed to prove myself. You don't understand the pressure." "The pressure?" I laughed. "I spent 5 years building this software while working full-time. 5 years watching people like you take credit for my work. 5 years being passed over because I was just Jennifer from accounts." My phone buzzed. Another email from Silicon Valley. "Legal team ready to proceed. Estimated damages, $15 million. "So here's what's going to happen." I turned to Richard. "In about 30 seconds, the legal team representing my software is going to call your phone. They're going to ask about unauthorized usage, software theft, and intellectual property violations." Right on cue, Richard's phone rang. Richard stared at his ringing phone like it was a snake about to strike. Sarah had collapsed into her chair, mascara running down her face. "You should probably answer that," I suggested mildly. "Tech firms take software theft very seriously. $15 million in damages, seriously." His hand shaking, Richard picked up the phone. "Richard Davidson speaking." I watched his face drain of color as the legal team laid out their case. Around the conference table, my coworkers sat in stunned silence. finally seeing the quiet Jennifer in a new light. But we didn't know. Richard was stammering into the phone. Our employee claimed. Oh, it gets better, I interrupted loud enough for the legal team to hear. Would you like to see the emails where Mr. Davidson praised the stolen software? Where he promoted the person who stole it? I have quite a paper trail. Sarah jumped up. You can't do this. I'll lose everything. Lose everything? I turned to her. Like I lost my promotion? Like I lost recognition for my work? Please, tell me more about losing everything while sitting in the position you stole from me. Richard covered the phone. Jennifer, please. We can fix this. Whatever you want, the promotion, a raise, anything. Anything. I smiled, pulling up another email. Like the CTO position at Silicon Valley's top tech firm? They offered me that too. Along with stock options worth, let's see, $30 million. The room erupted. CTO. $30 million? Jennifer created that software? But you're just an account manager, Sarah blurted out, then immediately regretted it. Just an account manager? I clicked to another screen. This, just an account manager built software that powers half the tech industry. Software you stole and couldn't even understand well enough to maintain for one morning without me. Richard was still on the phone, his face growing paler by the second as the legal team detailed the consequences of software theft. They're suggesting an immediate settlement, he said weakly, covering the phone again. Jennifer, please. The company can't afford this kind of lawsuit. Really? But you could afford to pass me over for promotion? Could afford to watch Sarah take credit for my work. I pulled up one final email. Could afford to write in her promotion recommendation that she shows more initiative and innovation than longer-term employees who seem content to stagnate? Sarah burst into fresh tears as her stolen success crumbled around her. Richard looked like he might faint. Here's what's going to happen. I stood up, smoothing my suit. I've accepted the CTO position. I start next month. The legal team is going to send over settlement papers. I suggest you sign them quickly before this goes public. Public? Richard whispered. Oh yes, I picked up my laptop. Tech blogs would love this story. Major firm promotes software thief, loses millions. Great headline, don't you think? The next morning I arrived at the office to find it in complete chaos. Richard had called an all-hands emergency meeting, and the tension in the conference room was thick enough to cut with a knife. As you may have heard, Richard began, looking like he hadn't slept, we're facing some significant changes. I sat quietly in my usual spot, no longer the invisible Jennifer. Every eye in the room darted between me, Sarah's conspicuously empty chair, and the stack of legal documents in front of Richard. First, he continued, voice shaking, Sarah Miller is no longer with the company. Second, we're facing a software licensing investigation that. He swallowed hard. That could significantly impact our operations. Impact our operations? I smiled. Richard, why don't I help explain? I connected my laptop to the projector again. Let's start with exactly how many millions this could cost the company. The color drained from his face as I pulled up the settlement figures. Option A. Your company pays $15 million in damages, plus public acknowledgement of software theft. Option B. The case goes public, damages triple, and every client learns you promoted someone for stealing licensed software. My phone buzzed, another email from my future employers. Legal team updating damages estimate. Stock price impact could exceed $50 million if case goes public. But there's an option C, I continued, watching Richard clutch his water glass. One that might save what's left of the company's reputation. What's option C? He managed to ask. I projected my new employment contract onto the screen. Silicon Valley needs a East Coast office. They're willing to acquire Davidson and Partners at a significantly reduced price, of course, given the circumstances, and retain most employees. Under new management. New management? Someone whispered. Yes, I smiled. As incoming CTO, I'll be overseeing the transition. And making staffing decisions. Richard collapsed into his chair as the implications hit him. His company, his legacy would survive, but under my control. Jennifer, he started, I never meant. To pass me over? To call me stagnant? To watch someone steal my work? I pulled up his emails praising Sarah. Actions have consequences, Richard. You're just lucky I'm offering you a chance to keep your job. A lower-level position, of course, but still a job. The room burst into shocked whispers. She's taking over? Richard's being demoted? How much is she worth now? My phone buzzed again, a message from Sarah. Please don't do this. I'll lose everything. I projected her message onto the screen. Interesting choice of words, Sarah. Let's talk about losing everything, while I show everyone exactly how you stole my software. The next hour was enlightening for everyone. I demonstrated how Sarah had copied my work, showed Richard's glowing praise for stolen innovations, and detailed exactly how much money their decisions would cost them. By the time I finished, Richard had signed the acquisition papers with trembling hands. One last thing, I said, standing to leave. Check your emails. You'll find detailed performance reviews for everyone in this room, including documentation of who supported Sarah's theft and who knew about it. Reviews. Richard looked up sharply. What reviews? My software tracks everything, Richard. Every email, every file transfer, every conversation about Sarah's amazing new system. I smiled. I know exactly who helped her and who looked the other way. And as new management, I'll be making personnel decisions accordingly. Oh, and Richard, you'll find your new office assignment in your email. It's the small one next to the supply closet, the one you gave me after promoting Sarah. As I walked out, my phone lit up with messages from executives at our client companies, all responding to the email I'd sent last night detailing Sarah's fraud and the upcoming management changes. One more thing, I turned back, enjoying the fearful attention of my soon-to-be subordinates. The holiday party budget you denied me last year? I'm throwing a company-wide celebration next week to announce the acquisition. Attendance is mandatory. I want everyone to watch as I introduce Richard as our new junior account manager. I could hear the chaos erupting behind me as I walked to the elevator. 5 years of being overlooked, of watching others take credit for my work, had taught me patience. Now that patience had paid off in the sweetest way possible.